Warning. In the following episode, topics such as domestic and sexual abuse and sexual assault will be discussed as part of this week's film review. Listeners who are sensitive to these topics should proceed with caution. Hello everyone, welcome back to Lynchian Picks from Coffee Nick's Movie Picks, a members-only collection venturing into the dreamlike world of David Lynch films and black, damn fine coffee. You are listening to part 6 of 10 of this series, and in this episode we will be discussing for the second time on this show one of my all-time favorite films, Twin Peaks: Fire Walk With Me. Our black coffee pairing for today is the Estate Blend from Twin Engine Coffee. Please take a seat, stay a while, and let's talk David Lynch over some black coffee. Wow. Okay, first of all, I'm sorry about the delay in getting this episode out. I'm running into a similar issue that I did with Lady Bird, for those of you that were around for that. Some of you may know that Twin Peaks: Fire Walk With Me is one of my favorite movies of all time. And when I say one of, I mean it is in my number 2. It is number 2, right below Lady Bird. This movie means a lot to me, and I've reviewed it on the show before. I've talked about it before. But that was over a year ago, and since then, I have watched it many more times. I've watched the show once over again, and this movie has became something very different to me, and it's meant a lot more to me over time. So reapproaching it is really a daunting task, and I've been dreading it a bit because how do I encapsulate all of my feelings and thoughts about not only this movie, but this show into a podcast episode that is hopefully like about an hour long. It's kind of crazy. And not even that, the movie discussion's only like 30 minutes, most episodes. It's very daunting. But I think with that, I just need to learn to accept that there's no way that the discussion can be all encompassing. And that's what I ran into with the Greta Gerwig stuff and everything. It's impossible to capture everything. And I've said this about Lady Bird, and I'll say it about this movie, but the reason I love specifically these two films so much, although they're very different, not at all similar, the reason I love both of these so much is that every time I watch them, they mean something completely different to me. I get something entirely new. It's not even like I pick up on this detail or that detail, which I might. It is that the movie just takes a new shape in my life. It relates to my life in a new way. I come away from it just feeling differently, or just always somehow like gives me something that I need. These movies are very special to me, and I of course want to talk about them on my podcast, but it's really daunting. It's really daunting to approach them. So I think that has been why there has been some delays here, because I'm just dreading this. But I'm also very excited to talk about this again, obviously, just to have this opportunity, which thank you for being here and giving me this opportunity. I think that in terms of scheduling, there has also been just some motivation issues. I've been very busy recently. Work has been, it's very fast paced. And when I come home, it's like I just kind of want to veg out. I want to scroll on Instagram Reels, even though I've stated on this show how I don't like doing that, but I just need low brain activity sometimes when I come home from work. And also, to be quite frank, I've just been enjoying doing other things in my life. That's nothing to be concerned about. I really hope that this show isn't going anywhere. It is a very important part of my life, but I've been pouring into my glass in other ways lately, which is very important to me. I don't want one thing to be the source of all the liquid in my glass. to use that metaphor again. If you know what I mean. Does that make sense? I feel like that makes sense, you know? So yeah, I'm constantly finding other ways to pour into my glass. But of course, I want to keep up with the show here since I am on a schedule. So I do not apologize for pouring into my glass in other ways, taking time to do other things. But I do apologize that it has affected the show schedule. And if you were counting on the show to release on a certain day, I'm very sorry to disappoint. And hopefully I will get back on track. I have a idea in mind of how to do that. But enough about that. I do need to mention, though, that if you want more Twin Peaks stuff, I released 2 bonus episodes related to Twin Peaks. So out already, there is a bonus episode on the Twin Peaks pilot episode from the original run of the show. That one is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that one. And I just go really, really in depth and end up talking about the whole show pretty much. But it's really good. That one's already out. And then in hopefully the next few days, 2 to 3 days, I will be releasing a bonus episode with my overall thoughts on Twin Peaks: The Return. So if you want to hear that, keep your eyes peeled. Those right now are just available to regular tier members. So if you would like to hear those as soon as possible, subscribe to the regular tier, which is only $3 a month, and you will have access to those. If not, you will have access to them at a later date. But thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening to the show. I really appreciate it. Like I said, this episode is in danger of being a very long review. So I think it would be most wise to just get right into it. Now Brewing is a segment reviewing coffee as black as midnight on a moonless night. Now Brewing in today's episode is the Estate Blend from Twin Engine Coffee. Now, I might have picked this because it had twin in the name, but also like engine, motor oil, you know, that's a Twin Peaks thing, right? Right? Like they smell the motor oil. Whatever. It is a good coffee, which is why it's here. But I liked that it, you know, just let me have fun. Just let me have fun with it, okay? The Estate Blend from Twin Engine Coffee. Okay, about Twin Engine Coffee a little bit. They are entirely based in Nicaragua. Their coffee is from there. This makes the coffee unique to the microclimate and the volcanic soil of Nicaragua, which gives it a very nice taste. And what is so important about Twin Engine Coffee is that they say they empower the coffee industry to stop poverty with more than 400% more resources staying at the source than fair trade standards. So I am not like completely knowledgeable with fair trade standards when it comes to the coffee industry, but I do know that in order to be labeled ethically sourced fair trade standards, they have to meet these requirements. So basically they're saying that they do 400% more than what's required to be labeled as that, which is really cool. They do this by supporting families and ecosystems where the coffee is harvested, and the entire team lives and works at the source of the coffee. So everyone from the people harvesting the coffee to someone doing marketing for the company, they are all located in Nicaragua, where in the communities where this coffee is being harvested. That is really, really cool to me, and that supports those communities so much more than other major coffee companies would by having like their operations, their marketing, and even their roasting happening, you know, in the United States or abroad, away, far, far away from where the coffee is actually being harvested. I think for the best way a coffee company can support coffee is by having as many resources and as much, I don't know, opportunity as possible located as close to the coffee as possible. And they had a lot of information on their website about how they do this specifically and why, and like more of these details. But I just wanted to read this small blurb because I feel like it explains this really well. So, quote, Today, 99% of the world's coffee is grown in the world's poorest countries. Almost all of these coffees are exported as raw green beans to the most developed countries. Fair trade or not, the current coffee path leaves most families at the source with few jobs and marginal, unpredictable income. Poverty relentlessly pushes onward. End quote. So that explains really well how a lot of coffee companies propagate poverty in the communities where they're harvesting the coffee from. And then Twin Engine Coffee then lays out on the website all of the ways that they are instead supporting these communities. Really cool stuff. I think I it's surprising to me that more places aren't doing this. And Twin Engine Coffee, what makes them so different is that they are doing this. And I wish this was the norm. I wish this was not like just a one-off thing. But I really respect this company for doing all of these things. And I would love to see this more in other companies. About the estate blend a little bit. This is really good. It reminds me a lot of the synthesis blend that I reviewed on the Eraserhead episode, but it's more acidic. It has a really, really nice, rich taste, and it has a powerful, like flavorful, but not too bold taste when you sip it. It has notes of chocolate and citrus, but I feel like when I think of that, I think of like a kind of softer drink, but this one it's a bit more harsh. So I wouldn't say that this is like the easiest cup to wake up to. I really enjoy having this one in the morning, but it definitely has a lot of flavor and it's a tad bit more acidic. With all of that being said, I'm going to give the Estate Blend and Twin Engine Coffee both the Nick pick. Our next segment is the Coffee Thought, and this is an outlet dedicated to voicing my many incoherent thoughts over some coffee. Do not waste your 20s. Go live in a city. Go live somewhere. Go be someone. Do something. You won't have this forever. You are living the best version of your life right now. Get out there. Enjoy it. These are the days and the memories you will look back on for the rest of your life. You have got to start eating right. You have got to start exercising. You have got to start living your life. Can I say I'm tired? Can I say I'm tired? Listen, like I said, recently I have been on a little not motivated streak. I've had a really hard time sitting down and doing what I need to do, especially when it comes to the podcast. Like when I was writing the script, I've been scrolling on Instagram Reels and I take too many breaks. I get distracted too easily. But through all of this Instagram reeling, which if you've listened to the show, you know that I hate short form content. So when I'm on it a lot, I feel icky. When I spend way too much time on Instagram Reels, I've been noticing a lot recently. A lot of stuff is like very hopecore, like all of the examples I just gave. You are in your 20s. You have to start. Don't stay in tonight. Go out, party, go stay out, close down the bars, go live in the city, go be someone, do something. It's a lot. It's a lot. And I will say, I agree. I agree with all of those things that I said at the beginning of this and just now. I endorse those things. You are living your best life. It will never get better than this. You have to make it right. You have to, I don't know, be happy. It's all about perspective. Yes, now is the time to start eating right. Now is the time to start exercising like you always said you would. These are the days you will look back on. Yes, they are. The 20s, live it up. It's great. I know. I agree with all of these things. I endorse these things. But the onslaught of hopecore reels, hopecore TikToks, whatever, it is a little overwhelming. Not a little. It is very overwhelming. And I'm curious if the people making those reels are also 24, like I am. And I think part of being in your early 20s, being 24, is that it kind of sucks. But through it sucking, there are really beautiful, great moments that, yes, I will look back on. But right now, it doesn't feel so good. And, you know, it is really tiring. It's really exhausting. You are out in the real world for, I've only been out in the real world for a few years now. I'm still kind of learning like how to be an independent adult. Sometimes it's hard to just make dinner. Sometimes I'm not even motivated to make dinner. Work is really hard. I don't know. Everyone has to make dinner, do laundry, all of these things, but it's really exhausting. And I think, I don't know. I appreciate the messages of these videos, but I don't appreciate the videos themselves because I think they are sort of, I don't know, they are affirming this mindset that like, oh, right now I'm not doing enough. I need to be doing more. I need to be somehow even more maximalizing my current life. Like, I'm still not doing enough. It's almost just like supporting this more mentality when it comes to your own life. And I don't know. I'm not saying that I think we should turn to like settling and we should just settle with what we do have. But I think right now it's a bit unrealistic. And the messages that are like, you have to go out there. Don't stay in tonight. Go party. You're in your 20s. Or move to the city. You will not regret it. Put yourself in a new place. Yes, I agree with all of it. But these videos are also just generalizing across the board. None of these people know your specific situation, your circumstances right now. And frankly, none of them know what you're up to. Like, what I just went out this weekend. I had a great time. And if I'm watching a video that's like, don't stay in tonight. What are you doing? It's a Saturday night. Get out there. Like, girl, I'm still hungover. My head is pounding. I'm going to stay in tonight and play Donkey Kong Bonanza. Sorry. Sorry about it. So I don't know. I just came on here to say that I don't appreciate these videos because they are endorsing this more mentality when, I don't know, maybe I'm happy with the way things are now. Maybe I just don't have energy to like, I don't know, fixer upper my life right now. Maybe I'm just trying to make it. Maybe like what gives me joy right now and what makes me feel satisfied is just like, I don't know, making it to the end of the day and like having gotten through everything I needed to do. I I, I don't know. I don't need a stranger online telling me that I'm not doing enough to make the most of my 20s. I think the only person that can tell me that is me or my therapist, you know, or my friends. Or like my family. There's a few there's a few people that could tell me that, but most importantly me. I think I'm the person that decides that. And who knows, maybe, in my 30s and 40s, I'll look back on this and I'll be like, oh, I didn't make the most of my 20s. But also at that point, I can just, I don't know, generate a reality where I can be back in my 20s and party every night. And then I'll go home to my robot spouse and they'll make me, I don't know, AI generated meatloaf and I'll eat that and I'll generate my own episode of whatever TV show I want to watch on Amazon Prime and I'll feel empty inside and I'll be like, David Lynch? Who is that? Because they outlawed him for being creative and having creative ideas. And Then I'll go to work where I'll be an official prompt writer. And um, the world will just be in black and white. It'll be like De Blob. Do you know that video game, De Blob? De Blob, where they outlaw colors, and you're like a blob that goes around bringing color back to the world. That's a good game. I'm thinking about getting that on my Switch. Who knows? Maybe I will look back on this, and this will be the best time of my life. Nick, if you are like in your 30s and 40s and you're listening back, it's not as great as they make it out to be right now. At least from where I'm sitting, it doesn't feel that great. So maybe the point is it's just never gonna be that great. I hope it will feel really good. It feels good now. There's moments, it comes and goes. There's moments where I'm really loving it. There's moments where it's not so hot. It's a balance. It cancels out. So whatever. Maybe I just need to watch less reels, but that's something I've established many times before. But I think this is just a reminder. Anyways, let's move on because we do have a lot to talk about. Now showing part 6 of Lynchian Picks, our film discussion segment diving deep into the dreamlike nightmares of David Lynch. Set 1 year after the murder of Teresa Banks, Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me follows high school homecoming queen Laura Palmer's drug-fueled double life in the events leading up to her gruesome murder. As Laura encounters strange entities and pieces together who may be attacking her, her whole world starts to fall apart. Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me is directed by David Lynch. It stars Cheryl Lee as Laura Palmer and Ray Wise as Leland Palmer. It was originally released in theaters on August 28th, 1992. Two things that I would like to touch on before we get into this. The first one is that there will be heavy spoilers starting now, not only for this movie, but for the entire show of Twin Peaks. I don't know what the experience is like if you've watched this movie without watching the show first, but I highly recommend doing that, watching the show, first 2 seasons, then this movie, and then The Return, season 3 after. Please watch it like that. Please don't spoil it for yourself. Go watch it. Watch it tonight if you have not. But spoilers starting now. The second thing is I would like to reiterate the content warning from the beginning of this episode. Because of the nature of this movie and the content of this movie, there will be discussions about sexual and domestic abuse and sexual assault in this now showing. So please be advised and proceed with caution. As you all know, I have talked about this movie on my podcast before, and I had Harrison Doyle there with me to discuss it, which was really fun. And he is the David Lynch expert. He is honestly the film expert in my life. I have never even come close to his level when it comes to movies or David Lynch. So go listen to that episode if you want a little bit more. He has a lot to say, a lot he brings to it, but it was fun to listen back to that one a little bit before this episode because so much has changed on the show. And I don't know, Harrison was amazing in that episode, but me as a host, I was listening back and I was like, Nick, what are you doing? I don't know. I feel like a lot of my points I brought up just kind of like never really went anywhere. Like I was just kind of saying stuff. But I think that was only the first or second time I watched Fire Walk with Me. And also I was just, Twin Peaks was still very fresh. I wasn't very deep in the rabbit hole yet. And obviously the podcast was very fresh. So it's an interesting listen nonetheless. Interesting because Harrison is like killing it and has all these really cool insights. And then I'm just kind of like floundering but having fun. Yeah, it's a fun listen. I will link that in the show notes. But again, I re reviewed Dune as well, but I'm going to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to try to not repeat things that we discussed in that episode, but I can't help it at some points. But I want this to kind of be a discussion within the larger context of David Lynch's films. I want to try to explore how this film is in conversation with the other ones rather than just discussing this film in isolation. So that's the purpose behind re reviewing it. And also, I hope I'm a better host this time and my reviewing skills are turned up the dial is turned up just a little bit more. In that episode, though, the old Twin Peaks review episode, something that was a really, really cool showing because that viewing, I went to the theater to watch it. And in that viewing, there was a Q&A, a live Q&A with Cheryl Lee, who plays Laura Palmer. So Cheryl Lee was there in person and she took questions about the movie and about her performance in Twin Peaks overall. And then afterwards, she stood there for photographs and autographs, and you could go up and meet her and talk to her. So I was able to do that with Harrison. I was able to go meet Cheryl Lee. I have a picture with her, and we talk about that in that review of Fire Walk with Me. But since that's such a notable, I don't know, moment in my relationship with Twin Peaks, I think it's very important to discuss that here as well. But first of all, I just want to say Cheryl Lee is such a lovely human being. She was so kind and thoughtful, and also just very aware of like the questions and the answers, just very thought out. And you can tell that she so deeply cares about this film and the fans of Twin Peaks, which is really cool to see that. She views in this Q&A, she stated that she views this film as raising awareness for the issues presented in the film. If you know anything about Cheryl Lee currently, she is an advocate for sexual and domestic abuse awareness. She's an advocate for the survivors of it. She has really devoted herself to this film's mission, and I deeply respect that. I deeply respect her, not only as an advocate, but just as an actress. She is phenomenal in representing this character and what this character is going through. I just have so much respect for Cheryl Lee. I think she is a wonderful human being, and I'm so honored that I got to meet her. And right now, right here at my little desk corner where I record my episodes, I have my framed photograph of Laura Palmer's high school homecoming photo with Cheryl Lee's signature on it. It says, "To Nick, many thanks," and then Cheryl Lee. It's one of my most prized possessions. I love it. And every time someone sees it, they always think it's Princess Diana, strangely enough. So I don't think anyone has ever seen it and immediately known, oh, that's Laura Palmer. It's a conversation starter, you know? Funny enough, there actually is a Twin Peaks Conversation with the Stars happening that's on tour right now, and that's happening tomorrow in Northern Virginia. So this will not be out in time, so it would have already happened. But if you don't live in Virginia, maybe look at like the dates and maybe you can go to a different show. But that's going to have the actors that play Leland, Lucy, Andy, maybe Hawk. They're going to be there for a panel discussion and also like meet and greet, that sort of thing. So that's really cool. Unfortunately, I will not be able to go to that, but just a really cool little thing that they're doing. As I have been doing with all of the other films in this Lynchian Picks series, I would like to lightly touch on the context, a little bit of the behind the scenes, what was like the reception of this movie, because I feel like the reception of this movie is, if you're going to know anything about the context, that's the thing to know. So if you listen to the previous episode in this series, the Wild at Heart episode, not the bonus episode. You know that that went to Cannes. It debuted at Cannes and it won the Palme d'Or, which is basically like Best Picture at that film festival. So the following year, David Lynch also debuted Fire Walk with Me at Cannes, and it was famously booed at the festival at its debut. It was famously booed. David Lynch's films went from winning the highest honor to being booed and ridiculed. American press did not like this movie at its release. It was critiqued for its graphic depictions of sexual and domestic abuse and also its surreal style, which I just don't understand how that is a valid critique. Really, especially the surreal style part. It is like part of the medium of film. Like I don't know, that's like saying like, oh, this painting sucks because it is in like an abstract style, or this painting sucks because it is like a realist style. I don't know all the different styles, but you know what I mean. It's kind of like, okay, well, like if we're critiquing something just because of the style it adopts, then you're really not affirming that medium as an art style. I mean, the point of like artistic mediums is that you can use different styles. Like, yes, it's a painting, but is it a painting in like postmodern, again, making up these styles? I don't know anything about painting really. Is it like postmodern style? Is it surreal? Is it like realistic nature style, whatever that's called? You know what I mean? It's just critics are saying this. Like, I thought critics were supposed to be like the snobbiest ones who are like, you know, connoisseurs of the art and everything. So that just kind of blows my mind. But also people critiquing it for its graphic depictions of abuse. I do understand. I completely understand how that could turn people away from this film. But it's, it also just, to me, it's kind of like, okay, well, what did you think you're signing up for? And I get that people were maybe caught off guard because they were watching the TV show, which was like, I don't know, on network television. So there were obviously some requirements that it had to meet, and it went to a film and became a lot darker and a lot more graphic. But also knowing what this film is about and knowing like what just Twin Peaks is about. Like, did you really think that the camera would shy away from these things? And I think honestly, if the camera shied away, or if this film tried to dodge these subjects, these serious topics, I think that would have defeated the whole point of this story of Twin Peaks. You know, the whole point about Twin Peaks is it takes like, you know, any other procedural TV show, you have the dead girl, but then she's just moved on from every single episode. There's a new dead girl pretty much. The point of Twin Peaks is that it focuses on the aftermath of this one singular girl's death and how it leads to all of these different things. So I don't, if the movie were to shy away from that or back down, I I don't know. It just wouldn't be Twin Peaks. So yeah, I can understand how people maybe are. I don't know. They don't like this movie. They don't enjoy watching it because of its content. That's completely understandable, and I respect anyone that just cannot really stomach or handle this movie. I completely get it. But at the same time, calling it a bad movie because it is just showing what it set out to show, I don't know. I don't know if that is like I don't know if that's good movie film critique. But yeah, the reception at Cannes, that transferred over to the general audiences. This bombed in North America. It did a little bit better in Japan and France, which makes sense. I guess they're just more receptive to, at that time, these countries were more receptive to just alternative styles of storytelling, if you want to call it that. The budget for the film was 10 million, and it made 1.8 million in its opening weekend, and worldwide it grossed 4.3 million. This movie did horribly. It did horribly critically, it did horribly commercially. It was a flop in every way. And just to give you like some perspective of the budget for this movie, another movie released this year was Bram Stoker's Dracula. That had a budget of 40 million. So, considering that, this movie was pretty small budget, and it still did not even make half of its budget back, which is so unfortunate because as you know how I feel. This is a good movie. And I was reading up on it and it said, oh yeah, it flopped at the box office, so plans for a sequel were scrapped. And I was like, sequel? Sequel? That really shocked me because what would a sequel be about? I feel like it would kind of be like a season three of sorts, obviously very different from the season three we have today, but it probably would focus on Dale Cooper being stuck in the Black Lodge. And I know that Mark Frost has talked about this a little bit, but originally their plans for a season three was to have Major Briggs kind of take on like a main character role and to have him try to get Cooper out of the Black Lodge. So I feel like the movie would have most likely been about that. But it's really shocking that that was like an idea at the time. Obviously, I think a lot of those ideas were carried over to The Return, which thank God we got The Return. So grateful for that. Even though this movie today is received a lot better, a lot of people have kind of like talked through it or revisited it and realized like, oh, hey, this is a really great movie. And it is now in good standing with the film community and general audiences alike. It still is a very divisive movie. So at the time, I would imagine it was divisive because season two of the show left off on such a cliffhanger. And rather than addressing the cliffhanger, the movie decided to focus on the events before the show and not address the cliffhanger at all. But today, I think now that audiences have I'd come to terms with the story that this film is trying to tell, I feel like this film is divisive because of the opening act, where it takes place in a completely different town. There's completely different characters, completely different story, even. So, if you haven't seen the film, which I'm hoping you have, the film opens with two FBI agents, Chris Isaac playing Chet Desmond and Kiefer Sutherland playing Sam Stanley. It opens with them investigating the murder of Teresa Banks, who, if you recently watched the early episodes of Twin Peaks, you will recall that that is a murder victim that was linked to Laura Palmer's murder. And I think it happened out of state, but the FBI was called in to investigate this. And it opens with that. They're investigating, they go to the local police station, which is like this weird alternate version of the Twin Peaks Sheriff Station, which, if you know that, it's like warm and fuzzy and apple pie and donuts are laid out and coffee, and they don't really have a lot of work to do, at least before the murder happened. This sheriff station is nasty, and the receptionist, she's like making jokes about the FBI agents, and the sheriffs or the deputies are coming out and they're like, yeah, we're not going to work with you. And they're just being like rude. And he's like, oh, we have some fresh coffee. It was fresh 3 days ago. It's like this bizarro version of Twin Peaks. It's directly playing on your expectations of the Twin Peaks Sheriff Station, and it's making it into this alternate, nasty, flipped on its head version. And these FBI agents, they even go to a diner. What is it called? Hap's Diner, where Teresa Banks was working, and they go there, and there's also weird things happening there. And you think of the Double R Diner, which is also very like warm and hospitable, and like I said, the cherry pie and coffee. This is like this nasty version where there's these flashing lights in the back, electricity buzzing, which ding ding ding, that's a symbol. And there's also, I believe there is a woodsman, which if you've watched The Return, you know the woodsman. I believe there is like an early version of a woodsman also sitting in that room with the lights flashing. And then the person working the diner, I forget her name, but she is kind of like very short with the FBI agents, and she's nasty and has this like kind of dark sense of humor. And the famous line she says is, "Do you want to hear our specials for today? We don't have any." They don't even have a special. What the hell is wrong with this place, you know? And there's also this weird image, which every time I watch this movie, I forget about these two characters, but they're also sitting at the diner. And it's this older man and this girl in this black dress wearing a pearl necklace. And the girl, I don't think, says anything out loud, but the man is trying to talk to the FBI agents, and he says, "Oh, are you talking about that little girl who passed away?" And they don't address him. And then later on in the scene, he says the same exact thing, and the woman with the pearl necklace doesn't react at all, which I think is very strange. This is not addressed at all later, but it's almost like could be that this man has issues with his memory, or it could be like just this weird situation, like we are in this alternate reality where things aren't right, or it's kind of like he forgot his lines or something. It's just very strange how he asks the same exact thing in the same exact intonation. Strange. Take note of that. Take note of that. But really, I deeply enjoy this first act of the movie. And again, like people that get really upset about this first act, I'm sorry, no offense, but I just think a lot of people approach this movie with very strict expectations. And when this film opens with kind of like this different focus in the story, I think people get upset with that. And I don't know. I think that is a disservice to what a wonderful first act this is. There's a lot of humor in it as well. It opens with the school bus of children and like cheerleaders being arrested. It's very strange, but also very funny. David Lynch playing Gordon Cole shows up with his mother's sister's girl, Lil, who is like a symbol for all of the things about the case. Basically, like they're supposed to take notes of Lil. It's a really cool first act. And also, when I watched this for the first time, I was like, wow, I completely even forgot that there was a first victim prior to Laura Palmer. And really, it wasn't given much attention in the original run of Twin Peaks. It was addressed very quickly and they moved on from it. Basically, oh, there was this other girl that was murdered who also had a letter under her fingernail. Really wasn't given much attention. But this film, it kind of really makes you think about how you forgot about her, I would say. It kind of confronts you with that. It's like, "Oh, you just forgot about this other human being that was also gruesomely murdered? That's weird. Why did you forget about that?" And I really like that this movie almost like accosts you with that information. We see Teresa Banks's body. It's one of the opening shots of this movie. There's the credits, the TV being smashed in, and very shortly after, we see Teresa Banks wrapped in plastic floating down this river. And it almost is identical to Laura Palmer. If it wasn't for the landscape, there would really be no difference. This is more of like a woody, forested landscape rather than like a rocky beach like Laura was in. And it even has subtitles to tell you this is not Laura Palmer. This is Teresa Banks. It has her name right there. Because if her name wasn't there, I truly would think we were watching Laura. So it is almost like this alternate version of Laura's murder. And it's really like an alternate version of Laura. We learn from the FBI agents and from the lady working at Hap's Diner that Teresa Banks didn't really have any friends or family. There wasn't anyone watching out for her, taking care of her. She just started at this job, so it wasn't even like this lady at the diner knew her. And she didn't have many possessions. She lived in the Fat Trout trailer park. Her house was, not very nice. And really, in every way, she is an opposite to Laura Palmer. And Laura kind of represents how this one death shook up this town, forever changed this town and really the world in the Twin Peaks universe. And then Teresa Banks is kind of like the other side of that, where this one death had almost no weight on anyone, which is really tragic and it's really sad. And but I do appreciate that these two characters and what their deaths represent balance each other out really well. And it's like, yes, this one death completely changed this town forever, but there's also deaths that happen and no one even knows about it or even remembers this person. You, as the audience, do you even remember this person? And I just love this first act. And I also love Chris Isaac and Kiefer Sutherland as these two characters. I think they're great. I've heard people say that their performances aren't good. I really like them. I think they're both really funny. Even Chris Isaac's character, Chet Desmond, is almost like an opposite of Dale Cooper. Dale Cooper is like serious, but in a lighthearted and optimist sort of way. Chet Desmond is kind of like that. He takes his job just as seriously, but he's kind of mean and nasty, and he pulls pranks on Sam Stanley, kind of mean pranks. And he kind of where Dale Cooper is very much like he believes in like the spiritual world and everything, and he's doing like, I don't know, throwing rocks at bottles in a forest to see who the suspect is. Chris Isaac is much more grounded in reality and takes things very seriously. This first act also introduces us to Harry Dean Stanton, who plays Carl Rodd. And if you've watched The Return, you know that he becomes a much larger character in The Return, which is kind of funny. But he is just a wonderful addition to this story as well. And, you know, he accompanies us through all of the Fat Trout trailer park scenes, and those are just so interesting. And all of these odd things happen at the trailer park. Well, first of all, Chet Desmond just disappears from reality and is never mentioned again in the entire length of the show, I'm pretty sure. So that happens. There's also just like strange residents of the trailer park that come up to Carl Rodd and there's like, "Where's my goddamn hot water?" Kind of funny, but also like, oh, this is kind of creepy. There's that random car that shows up that has red lipstick painted on it that says "Let's Rock." Not really explained at all. That's when Dale Cooper goes to visit the trailer park. One strange thing that happens in that moment is he goes to where Teresa Banks' trailer used to be, which it is completely gone now. And he asks who used to live there. And Carl Rodd says, "Oh, it used to be a woman by the name of Chalfont." As a matter of fact, the person before them were also named Chalfont. Two Chalfonts. Very strange how he points that out. And if you have watched The Return in its entirety, no spoilers for The Return right now, you know that Chalfont is a very, 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 very important name. But again, it's kind of like it's signaling that something is not quite right. There's some things are not matching up. There's a lot of strange alternate things happening that conflict with the reality that we see. Okay, my final point about Act 1, and then we'll move on. Oh my god, I'm already at like the 50-minute mark in this episode, so hopefully I can shorten this down for everyone. But like I said, this is my favorite movie. Let me talk. Let me talk. The last thing I like about Act 1 is how seamlessly it transitions into the story that we all came to see. Its transition into Twin Peaks. There is the scene where Dale Cooper says, "Who knows where the killer will strike again or when?" Boom. Starts playing the Twin Peaks theme song, and we see 1 year later, and it's the Twin Peaks sign, and car like blows by. It is just a wonderful, wonderful transition. And I don't know, it makes it feel so earned watching this first act and then finally getting to Twin Peaks where we spend the remainder of the movie. It just makes it feel even more glorious. And I don't know. A wave of emotions always rushes over me in this moment. It's just perfectly constructed. There's a very similar moment in Twin Peaks: The Return towards the very end, which is it makes me feel the same sort of way. It's just constructed perfectly. In this moment, we are then introduced to all of our Twin Peaks characters. Actually, not all, but the high school ones. The movie really follows the high school ones very closely. We see Laura Palmer walking down the sidewalk, coming home from school, and or going to school, I think. Yeah. And it is just such a strange emotion watching Laura Palmer and seeing her alive. It feels so weird because, we've seen Cheryl Lee throughout the show, whether it be in the Red Room or playing Maddie Ferguson. But seeing Laura Palmer alive and walking to school, I don't know, it just immediately tells me like, oh, the story we're watching is so necessary. And even when I was watching this for the first time, I knew, I was like, this is really important. I don't quite know why yet, but you can tell if they just wanted to make a Twin Peaks movie, they would have just followed whatever happened in season 2. It would have been the follow up to season 2. But the fact that they subverted our expectations and went back and told the story of Laura Palmer, you know that this is a passion project. And we definitely know that because we know how much David Lynch loved the character of Laura Palmer and how his attachment to her really, in many ways, caused the show to end so abruptly because people wanted him, the network wanted him to move on from her, and he just didn't want to give it up, so he left the show. That's very much paraphrasing, but you know what I mean. Seeing her just is it feels so good. And then we're introduced to Donna, who is no longer played by Laura Flynn Boyle. She's played by Moira Kelly, which is very shocking. But I talked about this in the first review I did of Fire Walk with Me. It's kind of fitting in a way that this character is played by a completely different person because the Donna we see in the movie is completely different from the Donna we see in the show. And if Donna serves a point in the Twin Peaks world, it is that she is the character who, in a way, is most changed fundamentally as a person by the death of Laura, I think. Because we see her in this and she's just so much more cheerful and innocent and naive. And she tries to be Laura. She looks up to Laura. And in the show, really what defines her, unfortunately, is that she is a character that is constantly grieving her best friend in different ways. This might look more explicit, or it might be her trying to go out and investigate and find out the truth for herself. And I feel like that's why when the mystery was solved in season 2, that's why this character floundered so much, because the death of Laura Palmer is really what drove and defined this character. And it's a shame that they couldn't expand on that for this character, because I really think there was so much more there. But in this movie, she is great. This is like peak Donna content, in my opinion. I never really was like a huge fan of Donna throughout the show, but in this movie, I think she has so much to do, and she's so interesting. Okay, a lot of other strange things happen. We see the scene at the FBI headquarters where Dale Cooper comes out of the elevator. He's looking at a camera and he goes to look at the computer screen to see if what is in the computer screen is matching what is actually in the hallway with the camera. Very like Five Nights at Freddy's. And so he goes to the computer screen. He's still standing there staring at the camera, which weird, maybe there's lag, whatever. He goes back to the camera, he's looking at it, and then someone comes out of the elevator and walks by him, but Dale Cooper doesn't see him at all. So Dale Cooper runs back to the camera, looks, and sees David Bowie, who plays FBI agent Philip Jeffries, walk by him. But that didn't happen in reality. Dale Cooper rushes back to the office and alerts Gordon Cole, but as soon as he does, Philip Jeffries, I think actually Philip Jeffries is already there when Dale Cooper walks in, and Dale, Gordon Cole just says, "I know, Coop, I know," and then Philip Jeffries starts saying something. He says, "Who do you think that is there?" And he says, "We live inside a dream." And all of a sudden, the scene starts cutting in and out, and it's cutting in and out with this horrible image of this man in a white mask with a long white pointed nose. And there's TV static cutting in and out of these different images. And we see the FBI station. And then we see what we later know as the upstairs of a convenience store. We see all of these Black Lodge entities that we are somewhat familiar with. We see the man from another place, otherwise known as the Arm. We see Bob. We see Woodsman. We see that grandmother and her grandson in the distance, who we see later in the movie as well. And the man from another place is talking about a Formica table, and green is its color. Very strange things. And then we see the boy with the grandmother. The boy takes off a mask, and there's like this monkey face underneath. This is a horrifying, horrifying moment, but it's also just representing this series of events that is just wrong. So Philip Jeffries, oh yeah, Gordon Cole says, "Meet the long lost Philip Jeffries. He has been missing for ages. We don't know how long exactly, but he's been missing, and he just shows up, and I'm pretty sure he just vanishes as well." And Philip Jeffries also says something really interesting. He points to Cooper and says, "Who do you think that is there?" And we can assume that this means that he thinks that this is the evil Cooper. But at this point in time, the evil Cooper would not have been released. So this character is coming from a different time and place and a reality where he never was lost, potentially. And he's acting like something is horribly wrong. Lots of strange things are happening. TV static. We're seeing like all of these different like images of entities, very strange things. And he says, "We live inside a dream." So obviously something is uncanny here, and we're seeing this alternate version of reality. And it's almost like reality is folding in on itself. People are not in the right places. They're not in the right timelines. Things are happening that are not supposed to. I don't know. Even like the guy at the diner that I was talking about, like he missed his line and he had to repeat himself, which is something that FBI agent Sam Stanley did as well. He made a joke and he had to repeat himself, and he still wasn't heard. Very weird stuff. It is like reality is slowly folding in on itself. And I think that this idea defines the movie for the entire rest of the runtime. Really, the rest of the movie, we follow Laura Palmer in the final week of her life as she starts to notice that something is horribly wrong, and she pieces together who might be her attacker, who might be her assailant. She's slowly starting to piece these things together, and as she comes to the realization of who has been assaulting her whole life, the world around her starts to fold in on itself. And I really think that this film illustrates the emotions of what someone like Laura Palmer would be going through. Someone who is a victim of trauma like this, they very much would be feeling like their entire world is folding in on itself and like it is ending. And I think that this is just illustrated really well in this film, using the performances of these actors, Sheryl Lee, and the rest, and also these really striking images and really well written moments, like the moment at the FBI headquarters. It's just very strange, and it very effectively puts audiences kind of off, and it makes them feel uneasy in a way that just I don't know, matches the film really well. This is going to be crazy for me to say, but that is pretty much all I have to say about this movie this time around. Is that I think that the surreal storytelling of this film really is utilized in such a clever way to illustrate the surreal, the overwhelmingly intense and frightening emotions that this girl, Laura Palmer, would have been going through. And I think that this film really it does a good job in communicating this character and her situations and her feeling and how when she slowly starts to unravel that situation and learn more about it. Sorry, there's a bug outside my window, really scary bug, one of those lantern bugs. Ugh. As she slowly starts to learn who her assailant is, their identity is revealed, her whole world starts to crumble apart. I think that's shown really effectively. Obviously, like I said, there is a lot more to say about the remainder of this film, but really, I don't think in terms of what I wanted to say for this review, I don't know what else I would say other than like recapping each moment and talking about like how it made me feel, which I think they're really fascinating moments to discuss. But we're already at an hour mark here, so I want to be conscious of time. But, all of these moments are so emotional. And I think it's really interesting to see these characters in a world where Laura Palmer is still alive and how they interact with Laura Palmer before her death, not knowing what's about to happen, especially seeing a character like Bobby. I think it's really interesting to see how he acted and again, like the moment where he kills somebody, that's another moment you just kind of like forget was even a thing, like in the pilot. And also Grace Zabriskie, I think her performance as Sarah Palmer is just fantastic in this film. It could very much be overplayed and it could be too much, but it was really clever that she kind of like gave this very subtle performance at times. Like I think about when Laura Palmer is going up to her room. It's technically the last time that Sarah Palmer sees her daughter. And if you've seen the pilot, she's like, I said goodnight, sweetheart. And that's the last thing I said. So it could have been worked up into this very high emotions moment for this character. But instead, the way Grace Zabriskie plays she just says, goodnight, sweetheart. And it's not worked up at all. And I think it just makes it even more effective. And watching the pilot, which I did right after this film for the bonus episode, watching the pilot right after this movie is so incredible. I highly recommend just seeing how this film transitions into the pilot and just watching kind of like in real time these characters' reactions to the news of this character's death. It is really interesting, and it's really interesting to kind of like compare notes and see like the things in the movie affect what happens in the pilot. It really is so well constructed, well crafted, and there's so many other just really well done moments. I think about the Pink Room scene, which is the club in Canada. I really enjoy how the music in that scene and how it's so loud you can't hear what the characters are saying, and they use subtitles almost like they're in the Black Lodge, but they're not. They're in this real version of it in a way. And just this movie is disturbing. Thinking about that scene, there's a lot of disturbing things in this movie. Obviously, Leland Ray Wise, he plays a disturbing character really well. It is very scary to watch this character in this movie. I think about when he shows up to the cabin, just seeing his face and seeing Laura's face, like seeing her father there, and then she screams and starts crying, and Leland just like screams in her face. It is horrifying, and the train car scene is also just horrific, which obviously it is knowing what happens in the train car. It is just such an intense moment. And I feel like there are a lot of like technical elements employed here to make it so intense. Obviously, we have a lot of that surreal imagery, like the guardian angel. We have Ronette like kneeling and praying, which I don't know if that's what she's actually doing in that moment, but it's what Laura sees. And she sees a guardian angel above her. And at that moment, she is like taken out of the train car and I guess saved. She lives, she ends up living. And then Laura is in the train car. And when she is being killed, there is like this intense, loud opera music. And we see Leland just being like interchanged with Bob. And it's such an intense moment, and I feel like it's really indescribable. I'm having a hard time like just saying like what makes this moment so powerful, but it's really just a lot of elements come together to make it what you see on the screen. Like just like the performances in this moment, the score, the visuals, like just everything is so well done. And the final moments of this movie are just something that completely captivate me and are just really so powerful and moving. Like seeing Leland return to the Black Lodge and offer up the pain and suffering he just collected in a weird way is it's just so jarring, and it's such a good ending. It's so good. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Here we are again. I'm supposed to be talking about this movie, and I just don't even know. I don't even know. The final image of the film, where Laura Palmer is sitting there with Dale Cooper, who is holding her shoulder, is like burned into my memory. And she sees the angel. It is this moment of hope in a strange way. And it's strange that there is hope for this character who just went through something so gruesome, who just died. Um, but it is a really beautiful ending that this character is seeing happiness eventually. Like she is finally happy, truly happy, and her guardian angel is there waiting for her. And this is the Lynch signature that I want to talk about for this episode, where although Lynch's films are oftentimes dissecting something very dark, and you're spending a lot of time in like this dark underbelly of the world where these awful things happen and there's these awful people doing awful things, there is this glimmer of hope that is present at the very end. I think of Blue Velvet, which is more explicit about its hopeful ending. I think about that. But I think this film, it's not as talked about just because how heavy this ending is, but this character does find happiness somehow, just in knowing that this man she's never met is trying to protect her and help her in a way, help her, like he's trying to reach through time and space to help this girl that he doesn't know. It is really such a beautiful ending. I cry every time I watch it, and I don't know what else to say. It's just a good movie. It's just a good movie. It's one of the best. It is one of the best. I love it. I love it. And if you don't, get out of here. Okay, strap in, strap in. I wrote a lot for my little outro thing, but I, of course, am going to give Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me the Nick pick. In Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, it feels as if the whole world is folding in on itself. It opens with a television being smashed in with a hammer and a woman's horrified screams. TV static is interlaid between scenes. Characters repeat their lines or become confused. In the film's final moments, gruesome and sexual violence enacted by a father on his own daughter is drowned out by an operatic score. Somewhere beneath the static and opera, the daughter is shown a mirror and even sees herself as her own assailant. Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me illustrates the feeling of destruction and doom that comes with being a victim to these horrific acts. Acts which occur under the guise of seemingly innocent small town America. Somewhere during the story of Twin Peaks, the character of Laura Palmer learns that the horrific acts which she is a victim to are not a television show, but her own reality. The TV screen is smashed in, the actors fumble their marks, there's static between the different channels. Tragically, it is in accepting her reality that Laura comes face to face with death. All that is left is for her to hope that a guardian angel will come to her. Fire Walk with Me is not only a fitting prequel to Twin Peaks, it stands on its own as a powerful, beautiful, and moving story about Laura Palmer. The story is so well done, in fact, that I have no idea what the whole of Twin Peaks would be without this. Cheryl Lee executes this performance with such bravery, determination, understanding, and somehow manages to balance not taking it too seriously with treating it as the most serious responsibility in the world. Grace Zabriskie, Ray Wise, and Dana Ashbrook also give standout performances, which they always do. The score is haunting and intoxicating. The surreal storytelling suits and emphasizes the surreal and overwhelming situation of this character. Finally, the ending does the impossible of somehow capturing the sheer magnitude of its own contents. Yeah, that's what I have to say. I love this movie. I think that this movie is just a beautiful, beautiful, moving and haunting work of art. If you've listened to this whole thing and you have not seen this movie or Twin Peaks, get out of here and go watch it now. I think that the entirety of Twin Peaks is worth watching just to get to this movie. I'm very curious what this movie would be like without knowing anything about Twin Peaks, but I just think that this isn't even like just one of the best television show movies of all times. Like, to me, this is just truly one of the best movies ever made. This is so important to me for so many reasons, and it somehow means something new to me every time I watch it, and I really appreciate that about it. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. I had a lovely time talking about this. I will be honest, it's really hard to talk about your favorite movies because they just mean so much to you. How do you sum up everything it means to you? But I had a really good time just sharing a little bit about what this film means to me and what I interpret it as. I'm sure a lot of you listening interpret it as something completely different, or you pick up on completely different things in it. If you do, I would love to hear about it. Please write into me somehow and let me know about it, and maybe I'll read it out in an episode. But that is just another thing I love about just Twin Peaks and all of David Lynch's films is that they can mean anything to anyone, which is just how films should be. Okay, thank you for listening to this. I really appreciate it. Thank you for just bearing with me this whole time. If you would like to hear me talk about this movie some more, there's a whole nother episode where I do that, and that is linked in the show notes. If you would like to hear me talk about this show more, just listen to literally any episode of my podcast, and I will do that in that episode, no matter what episode it is. But there are also bonus episodes that are out now or will be out in the next few days, where I talk about the pilot of the show and also the return as a whole. So if you want more, keep your eyes out for that. It might be for regular members only, but just check. And yeah, thank you for listening. If you would like to follow along with Lynchian Picks, the next episode of the collection will feature a discussion on Lost Highway. That will be released 2 weeks from today, somewhere around... Wait, no. 1 week, right? Yes, 1 week from today, somewhere around there. Around Thursday, August 14th. Let's just say that. Thank you again for listening to Lynchian Picks from Coffee Nick's Movie Picks. If you would like to stay up to date on the show, please follow me at Coffee Nick's Movie Picks on Instagram or at Coffee Nick on Blue Sky. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show, drop me a rating, and tell a friend about me. That really helps. And a special thank you to Nathan Moore for creating the show's opening and closing themes. Until next time, we're not gonna talk about Judy. In fact, we're not gonna talk about Judy at all.